Star Trek DS9's most emotional episode has a secret payoff years later. Star Trek Deep Space Nine's The Visitor has a secret payoff years later involving Captain Benjamin Sisko, Avery Brooks, and Ellen Garak, Andrew Robinson. Written by Michael Taylor and directed by David Livingston, Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 4, Episode 3, The Visitor, is one of the series' most emotional episodes, detailing the love Jake Sisko, Cirroc Lofton, Tony Todd, has for his father, Captain Sisko. The Visitor is based on a fan coming to J.D. Salinger's home unannounced and interviewed the reclusive author. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine's The Visitor, a young aspiring writer named Melanie Rachel Robinson shows up at the Louisiana home of an elderly Jake Sisko, who is now a reclusive author. Jake tells Melanie the story of how his father, Captain Sisko, died, although Jake later learned Ben was trapped in subspace. Shunning his writing career, Jake joined Starfleet to learn the science needed to bring his father back. Tragically, to restore Ben to the point of the initial accident decades earlier, Jake had to sacrifice his own life. But it worked, and Captain Sisko avoided the energy surge that would have sent him into subspace. More importantly, Ben understood the depths of Jake's sacrifice for the love of his father. Garak actor Andrew Robinson's daughter guest stars in Star Trek DS9's The Visitor. Star Trek Deep Space Nine's The Visitor is a poignant and powerful epic about Jake and Ben Sisko, but it's also another DS9 family affair. Jake's visitor, Melanie, is played by Rachel Robinson, who is the daughter of Andrew Robinson. Andrew played Ellen Garak, the former Cardassian spy turned tailor on DS9. The Visitor works on multiple levels, knowing that the actress who plays Melanie is part of Star Trek Deep Space Nine's greater family. In addition, Tony Todd, who portrayed the older Jake Sisko in Star Trek Deep Space Nine's The Visitor, was also already part of the Star Trek family. Tony Todd also played Kurn, the younger brother of Worf, Michael Dorn, on Star Trek The Next Generation and DS9. Todd was cast as the older Jake because it wasn't feasible for Cirroc Lofton to play his character in his 70s. Kurn's Star Trek fate saw him become a new person unable to live as a member of the disgraced House of Mo. Kurn's mind was wiped, his face altered, and DNA resequenced so he could join the House of Nagra under a new identity, Rodic, with no memory of his prior life as Kurn. Garak and Captain Sisko got away with DS9's secret Dominion war crime. The Visitor's real-life connection between Andrew Robinson's Garak and Avery Brooks, Captain Sisko, paid off in the dark. And controversial Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 6 episode, In the Pale Moonlight. Prior to Captain Sisko's decision to trick the Romulans into fighting the Dominion War on the side of the United Federation of Planets, Ben limited his interactions with Garak. However, requiring Garak's unique skills and contacts, Sisko relied on the Cardassian tailor to help him with his secret plot, though he came to regret it. While Sisko would utilize Garak's talents later in DS9, In the Pale Moonlight was their most insidious collaboration. With Captain Sisko's authorization, Garak had a forger named Grathan Toller, Howard Shrangraw, released from prison to create a program incriminating the Dominion plotting against their Romulan allies. However, the Romulan Senator Vreenak, Stephen McCaddy, saw through the ruse and deduced the footage he saw was fake. This was an outcome Garak anticipated, as he secretly planted a bomb on Vreenak's shuttle without Sisko's knowledge. The death of the Senator was blamed on the Dominion, and the Romulan Star Empire entered the war on the Federation side. Sisko got the outcome he wanted, but at a cost because he trusted Garak. Star Trek Deep Space Nine DS9 is renowned for its complex characters, moral ambiguity, and deep emotional resonance, making it a standout in the Star Trek universe. Among the many episodes that tugged at the heartstrings, The Visitor, Season 4, Episode 3, stands as perhaps the most emotionally charged. It tells the story of Jake Sisko's lifelong quest to save his father, Captain Benjamin Sisko, who disappears in a temporal accident. While this episode is often lauded for its emotional depth, it also has a secret payoff years later that deepens its impact, resonating throughout the series in ways not immediately obvious. The emotional heart of The Visitor begins with an elderly Jake Sisko recounting the most tragic event of his life to a young writer. During a routine mission, Captain Sisko is hit by an energy discharge, which seemingly kills him. However, it's soon revealed that he's not dead, but trapped in subspace, existing out of phase with the rest of the universe. He occasionally appears to Jake over the years, but these visitations are fleeting, as the captain is pulled in and out of the time stream. The emotional core of the episode revolves around Jake's overwhelming grief and his inability to move on from his father's loss. We see him grow from a promising young writer into a man obsessed with finding a way to rescue Benjamin. He sacrifices his career, relationships, and ultimately his entire life in the pursuit of saving his father. In the end, elderly Jake takes drastic measures, ending his life to create a paradox that will prevent the accident from happening in the first place, giving his younger self a second chance with his father. What makes The Visitor so powerful is its exploration of love, loss, and the lengths we go to for those we care about. It's not just about a son losing his father, but about the deep, almost spiritual connection they share, transcending time and space. It's also a poignant meditation on grief, how it can consume a person, change their trajectory in life, and lead to both noble and self-destructive decisions. The secret payoff, Jake Sisko's future path, while The Visitor is often viewed as a self-contained episode, it subtly sets the stage for Jake Sisko's character arc throughout the rest of DS9, with a secret payoff that becomes evident as the series progresses. After the events of The Visitor, Jake's development takes on new layers of meaning. The experience of living a lifetime without his father, even though it was erased by the paradox, leaves an indelible mark on his character, shaping his actions and relationships in subtle ways. One of the most notable payoffs comes in Jake's decision to remain on Deep Space Nine after his father disappears in the series finale, What You Leave Behind. In the final episode, Benjamin Sisko vanishes into the Celestial Temple, becoming one with the prophets. His fate is left ambiguous, with the promise that he will return in time. Unlike the Jake in The Visitor, who becomes obsessed with saving his father, the Jake in the series finale accepts his father's departure with a sense of peace and maturity. This moment is a direct emotional payoff from The Visitor. Jake has already lived through the worst version of losing his father, where he let his grief consume him. Now, having gone through that experience, even though it technically never happened, he is better equipped to handle his father's absence. The emotional growth Jake demonstrates in the finale is a subtle but profound evolution from the desperate young man we saw in The Visitor. The episode's impact on Benjamin Sisko's arc, The Visitor, also has a hidden payoff for Captain Benjamin Sisko's character. While much of the focus is on Jake, Benjamin's journey is equally important. Throughout DS9, Sisko grapples with his dual role as both a Starfleet officer and the emissary of the prophets. In The Visitor, we see how deeply he cares for Jake and the pain he feels at being unable to help him. In retrospect, The Visitor foreshadows Benjamin's ultimate fate in the series finale. Much like how he disappears and reappears to Jake throughout The Visitor, Sisko's destiny as the emissary involves a kind of transcendence beyond linear time. His disappearance into the Celestial Temple mirrors the temporal dislocation he experiences in The Visitor, suggesting that Benjamin Sisko's journey was always tied to forces beyond his control, forces that exist outside of conventional time and space. Conclusion: The Visitor stands out as Deep Space Nine's most emotional episode, not just because of its heartbreaking narrative, but because of the deeper character arcs it sets in motion.